Hello, I am Natalia at Mom's Dish. Today we are making Mongolian beef. This is a one-pan dinner, so easy, so juicy. You will love this recipe. And for the sauce ingredients, all you need to do is just dump it together. So I have just brown sugar right here. I'm gonna dump it in here. Soy sauce and water. You can use warm water. It will probably dissolve sugar better, but that's totally fine if it's at room temperature, and just whisk it up like this. And we're gonna set this aside as we work on slicing up the beef for the next steps. For this recipe, you want to use top sirloin or flank. I am using flank, and you want to pre-freeze it just for a little bit. It makes slicing much easier, and you want to cut it against the grain. So I have the flank pre-frozen just slightly. It's still soft, and I am actually gonna slice it lengthwise like this, and then we are gonna cut it into strips against the grain. For this slices, you want to go about 1/8 of an inch in thickness. And just having it pre-frozen makes cutting so much easier. You do have to have a sharp knife, and I highly recommend sharpening your knives quite often because it makes your life so much easier in the kitchen. When you cut it against the grain, this is how it actually looks like. So it's not gonna be tough. When you cut it the other way, the pieces will be chewy and tough, and this gets cooked and becomes tender and juicy. It's so good. Just make sure you cut it the proper way. We're gonna move this to a dish. We're gonna cook it up. You do want to see the description. All the measurements are gonna be down below, but I did double up this recipe, so you see a lot more beef than you typically will see in a recipe. But you know, they make the best leftovers, so that's why I'm doubling it up. Now we're gonna toss this together with some cornstarch. This will thicken your sauce as well, so every piece, just coat it nicely. It'll give it a little bit of a crispiness when you cook it, but just coat every side of the beef as you go. Maybe I need a bigger dish for this, but that's okay, we'll make it work. To cook the beef, you wanna preheat a wok. So I have a quite large wok because you don't wanna overcrowd the beef. And we're just gonna preheat this with a little bit of oil and then cook a little bit of beef at a time. Just want this to get preheated just a little bit. Okay, I'm adding just a bit of beef at a time, and I'm gonna spread it out in a pan. That way we get nice browning on all the sides of the beef. Once you see a nice crust on the side, you just flip it over or just toss this together like this and then spread it out again. That way you can cover all the sides. Okay, and then you want to repeat this with the rest of the beef. As you cook it, you just set the other one aside. I have some sitting here, and then I'm continuing to cook the remaining of the beef that I have here. Using the same wok pan that I used, you don't even need to clean it. I'm adding some ginger in here. I'm just gonna grate it in directly into the pan, and we're gonna cook it for about a minute, and we're gonna add some garlic as well. Let's press in the garlic. Oh. Once the garlic and ginger cooks for a minute, we're gonna add the sauce in here that you set aside. Scoop out that sugar in the bottom and let this simmer for a little bit for the flavors to come together. Now we're gonna add beef back to the mix. Just dump it in. And we're gonna allow this to simmer as well for a little bit. The sauce will thicken because you have that cornstarch from the beef. So the sauce becomes nice, thick, and creamy like this. We are gonna serve this over rice. You can serve it with whatever you want to, but I love serving it with rice. And then we're just gonna do a little garnish of green onions. Let me toss that in. And this is basically it. A little bit of greenery there, just toss it together, serve it over rice. Let's just do a little bit more garnishing while we're serving and we're done. Our dish is all ready. We're gonna place it in a serving pan. You can serve it out of wok if you want to. And then on top, I love adding a little bit of green onions. It just adds a little bit of contrast. They're kind of big and chunky, make them a little smaller. And then a sprinkle of sesame makes every dish look so good, especially beef dishes. And let's dig in. I'm gonna scoop this over rice. The sauce makes the rice so delicious too, so just be generous because it's so good. Also, this reheats really well too, so if you wanna have leftovers for work lunch or school lunches for kids, this also works. That's what we do. A little sprinkle of green onions, and look how good that looks. Hope you love this recipe and come back for more.